because she knows the guy inside the flames, the guy who sees the real darkness, the harshness of life, will see her, this dancing little pixie, look at her and he'll be like, what is that? I need to protect her. I need to preserve this. And it might be a wonderful story if the manic pixie wasn't pretending. What I'm getting at is the manic pixie dream girl is so hated by women because she represents something that not only reduces us to our male counterparts' internal growth and healing, but damns us to an immaturity that preserves us in painful, childlike form. Hi, welcome back to the channel. I am so happy to have you back, to have you here if this is your first encounter with me. Either way, you're here and we're all better for it. So if you don't know me, my name is Catherine and today we're going to talk about manic pixies. I'm going to tell you what they are and I'm also going to ask you what you think about them, because when it comes to these socially mercurial topics, people have such a diverse range of perspectives, and honestly I cannot wait to read the comment section for this video. But it's just so refreshing to see critical discourse on the internet instead of just emotionally pandering to a politically digestible set of talking points, you know what I mean? So yeah, just grab a snack, get yourself comfortable, do what you need to do, make sure that you chill, okay? This is gonna be a hopefully relaxed discussion. Either way, without further ado, let's begin. There is a profound level of disdain that some women have for other women who resemble, at least archetypically, the likes of Sydney Sweeney. And if you ask them point blank, they will tell you that they have absolutely no logical reason for it. It gets even more interesting because when you talk to some guys, they have a very similar complexion of distaste for singers and just actors of the likes of, you know, Shawn Mendes, Justin Bieber, Timothée Chalamet, Zayn, I'm just listing off singers here, Harry Styles. And as human beings with advanced discerning faculties between both men and women, we are very sensitive to disingenuousness, because an inherent averseness to an ideal, whether it be a romantic ideal, a behavioral ideal, isn't as simple as being quote-unquote phobic or reflective of your severe need for empathy, as I feel like the modern politically correct thought seems to impose on us. I think we are smarter and more complex than we afford ourselves the necessary range of discussion for. The manic pixie dream girl has more a cemented idea in public consciousness than the panic pixie dream boy, simply because the latter does not seem to know what he wants to be. But I'll explain the former to you. She is vibrant, she is spontaneous, whimsical even, you know. She is untouched by the dark cynicism that in stories, she exists in complement to the male protagonist's self-discovery, because he has been so fatalistically hardened to a life of ease. She's got this borderline infantilized presentation, right? Wide eyes, because that obviously represents the quixotic naivety of her character. She's got these soft, feminine features, light, high-pitched, airy tone of voice, delicate frame, also a savor of feistiness that guys tend to find very attractive. Again, look at Sydney Sweeney and a lot of K-pop idols, female K-pop idols. And again, it makes a lot of sense because, you know, a lot of men who not only consume this content but are represented in media are resigned to a certain cold cynicism and a sadness, actually, that you wouldn't even know that guys are experiencing because they just don't talk about it. Guys do not talk about how bad things tend to be. So then obviously the woman I just described is not only his antithesis, but she's also his relief. When we look at the manic pixie dream boy, and it's a little bit more complicated because there's obviously more than one masculine ideal, but let me know if we should have a discussion on honestly the true headache that is this social complex. But the one I'm referring to, the one the guys just cannot stand, is the one simultaneously feminized appearance-wise, but protective in distinctly masculine tendencies. He's not intimidating to the extent of eliciting fear. He's more like intimidating to the extent of eliciting respect. And this is a bit of an oxymoron, I know, because by definition, respect is inspired rather than it is forced, but I know you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, on either side of the gendered aisle, there is some degree of contempt for these representations, and I want to talk about why. Remember how I said in the beginning, as human beings, we are very sensitive to disingenuousness. As a woman myself, if you didn't know, I can more easily recognize an artificial desperation to elicit a male response. Women will not naturally access a higher pitch unless there is a soft, non-intimidation we are trying to emulate. Most of us can actually relate very deeply to the cold cynicism that men experience. We are far from naive. We are actually very suspicious, and that manifests in either a cold unapproachability or high emotionality and defensiveness. When we do happen to present ourselves in that light, carefree, hyper feminine persona, I'm telling you now, it's not by accident. It is strategic because, you know, we know what gets your attention and we know what doesn't. However, because it is not natural, at least the extreme end of that presentation, I know a lot of us do naturally just default into that more feminine presentation, like myself. I'm just more naturally feminine. The issue presents that it becomes so psychologically destructive that we resign to something quite infantilized, because right there, that elicits your protection. For many women, the psychological consequences to the pursuit of that extreme manic pixie stereotype are unfortunately permanent, and it is a damage that a lot of men don't recognize. They don't see it, they don't sympathize with it, and, you know, fair enough. As women, we tend to be very insensitive and myopic to the sympathies of men because I think we're so used to being the victim in most situations. What I'm getting at is the manic pixie dream girl is so hated by women because she represents something that not only reduces us to our male counterparts' internal growth and healing, but damns us to an immaturity that preserves us in painful, childlike form. The manic pixie dream girl cannot be a mother, she cannot be a nurturer, and she cannot protect her own, because in order to protect her own, she has to know that there is danger in the first place. And the manic pixie dream girl is so ignorant, so aloof, and so dismissive of the very conceptualization of that term that danger itself will kill her before she realizes what it even is. She's willfully ignorant, and that is what makes her a pygmy. Well, what is a pygmy? A pygmy is an individual who will pander severely to the sympathies of the opposite sex in compromise to their morals and self-respect. Because the attention of the opposite sex is a temporary solve to the severeness of their insecurity. And this insecurity is deep. But here's where I think the real disdain for this archetype comes from, because like I said in the beginning, we are smarter and much more intuitive than the world gives us credit for. A pygmy, because of the severity of their insecurity, will be the last person to stand up and protect the innocent because their insecurity forever damns them to pandering. These people will infantilize themselves, they will sexualize themselves, and they will take the blue pill, if you will, overdose on that comfortable delusion until someone gets hurt. In fact, you guys, they might not even do anything in light of the worst of crimes committed by the one they are pandering to. They often enable the abuser by being quiet and quote-unquote demure because, you guys, they're so addicted to victimhood. And that is why the extreme is so dangerous, because she will forever be complicit in the worst of society's realities. Oh, she's carefree, she's virginal, she's not damaged, she's so spontaneous and exciting, and oh no, she might hurt herself, so I need to protect her. No, she knows. She's not ignorant. What I'm saying is, women hate the manic pixie because we understand the implicative layers to her artificiality. She is intelligent in her selective ignorance, which makes her a willing victim, which inflames her insecurity, which means she is damned to enable evil for as long as she gets what she wants: protection, value, validation. The manic pixie will watch the exploitation of the innocent and close her eyes, look pretty, and dance around the campfire because she knows the guy inside the flames, the guy who sees the real darkness, the harshness of life, will see her, this dancing little pixie, and look at her and he'll be like, what is that? I need to protect her. I need to preserve this. And it might be a wonderful story if the manic pixie wasn't pretending. I think the disdain comes from, as women, that we somewhere deep down recognize the implicative consequences of forcing ourselves into that extreme: weight loss, makeup, surgery, because, doe-like and demure, but selectively fiery and feisty as possible, just to keep things spicy. It's almost like we have to have that part of us because we can't completely kill the mature adult in us, right? That's why we end up being a little bit crazy, for lack of a better term. But that's why we don't like her, because we recognize how artificial she is. And we also understand how her willful ignorance and beauty perpetuates the worst kind of evil in the world. On the flip side of this entire discussion, I think men also see something also that we don't give them enough credit for, and I think we'll discuss that in a separate video. But I've explained my personal theory for the dislike on the female end, but I still want to know what undergirds the distaste that the guys have for, you know, the flip side of this discussion, because I don't think it's just, it might just be envy, it might just be jealousy, I don't know. That's why I'm saying we need to talk about this. So I think we'll continue this discussion in a separate video, but I think that's all I have for you guys today. I'd like to know your thoughts, I'd like to know your comments. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, goodbye, and I will see you next time.